What's up, everybody? What's up, Ice and FireCon? Hey, David, can we get some Dothraki at the top of the hour? How do you say hello, what's up, everybody, in Dothraki?
Matsumaron!
Yes.
What's up? Kind of forgot.
So we were just outside the doors here, and someone offered us half a pizza.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it yet, but David, make sure to eat your pizza off the microphone, just so people don't hear your chewing sounds, unless you watch ASMR videos.
Yeah.
And chew into the microphone.
We'll do that. There's probably going to be leftover here. We're not going to finish this thing up here.
If anyone wants a slice of pizza, come up and feel free to grab a slice. Actually, we have a lot right here. Come on up. Seriously, there's pizza if anyone wants it.
This has got.
Supreme with mushroom.
It's a vegetarian. It's got mushroom, bell pepper, green bell pepper, black olive, and red onion.
What are all those words in Dothraki?
Cinya. Can everyone put your hands together for Cinya for being the only person that likes pizza in this room?
Actually, you'll learn if you come to my panel on Saturday, you're going to learn the Dothraki word for mushroom. There's kind of a story behind it.
What's the story?
Well, you're going to find out on Saturday.
David told me when we were sitting outside, he goes, just don't ask me any questions about anything that I'm going to be presenting on for the rest of the weekend. And then...
Question number one.
So we can't talk about Game of Thrones, is what we were told. So I'd like to start off this panel today by asking David what it was like working on the new Halo TV series. Does anyone here like Halo? Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay, so can we get a shout out in the crowd if everyone thinks that Halo 3 is the best Halo? Woo! Okay, right on. What does everyone think about Halo Infinity? Okay. Back to David. What was it like in? I guess we'll. I haven't talked to you about this yet, so I'm genuinely interested. Did the studio reach out to you directly? Was it? How did this process begin? And I guess that's more connected to the whole process of where this has all gone for you since you became the guy to do all this in Hollywood.
This is true. Yeah. And by the way, it's not like nobody can ask any Game of Thrones questions, especially if you're not going to be here on Saturday. But on Saturday, I'm going to do a presentation basically on my entire experience working on Game of Thrones specifically. There might be stuff that I'm not going to cover. I mean, because there's just a ton of stuff. But but yeah, definitely come to that for that. So yeah, Halo. Yeah. Halo I've been working on for 3 years, and it was an experience. The show is going right now, and I hope everybody watches it. I hope that you all have your own individual Paramount Plus subscriptions and are watching the show religiously using that. But I mean, otherwise, I mean, yeah, it was an experience. I'll just say this, and you can infer what you will. There's plenty to look up online, but usually when I am working on a show, a script will come out, and then the first version that actually goes to production that is going to be filmed is called the first white, and then if it's revised, it's the first blue. And then it goes through like a series of like 4 or 5 colors, first yellow, first green, first cherry. And then when you get through all the colors, it comes back and you have the second white, if there are that many revisions. I've done episodes where there were actually no revisions. A lot of them where there was one. I've seen them get into a second round, so it'd be like, the second white or second blue. I've seen them get into the third round. Not until this show had I seen them get into the fifth, the fourth, the fifth, or the sixth in one case. That is how many times these episodes were revised. So yeah, I assume then by the time they filmed them, they were just bang on. So.
Why? Like, what was the purpose of revising so many times?
Yeah, it's a good question that I can't answer.
What did you think when it was happening? Were you like, is this because it didn't work out for something that I did, or is this overall some creative thing that didn't work out?
Oh, it certainly wouldn't have been me. I thought that some of the revisions were picky. Actually, a lot of the times, revisions that, because the revisions I paid attention to, the ones for the lines that I was doing. By the way, the language I created was for the Sangheili, and I created it with a friend and fellow conlanger, Carl Buck. But a lot of times it would be like the line would say, we must recover the artifact, and then there would be a revision, and it would say, we must recover the keystone, and then there would be a revision, and it would say, we must recover the artifact, and then there'd be a revision, say, we have to recover the artifact. And
That's important if you like Halo. Those are, never mind.
yeah,
Keystone and an artifact, I'm just saying in Halo lore, it can be two different things.
yeah, and maybe that was.
It's like they had made up their mind.
And maybe that was the source of the revisions in that case. But there were a lot of little back and forth things like that. But I don't know. From what it sounds like, I think it came off pretty well. I think people are liking it.
In that case specifically, I know that you've done more for that show, or sorry, rather, I feel like you had less to work with that. It does have lore that coincides with the lore from the video games. Like, they do have actual novels, and they do have that language. What was it called? Sangheili? So the stuff that the Covenant say. Right. It's in the books, but it doesn't have the same level of, like, I don't know what you call it, etymological, like, truth as something like Tolkien or something like George R. R. Martin would have done with his books. So, like, when you were working with it, did you feel like it was like looking at something that was more crudely written that you could like make better, or did you just go with the conventions that they used? Like, how did you approach it? And did you like, did what they do make sense before you got to it?
So part of the problem there was that Halo was created by one company, and then was purchased by another. Like, was it before Halo 3 or after?
It was right after Halo 3.
Right after
No,
Halo.
sorry, that's not correct. Does anyone know when Bungie was purchased by Microsoft? Was it like right after Halo 1?
It's like 343 Productions now.
That's the studio that Microsoft is
Yeah.
tasked with. They have like a legacy, like a franchise deal with them right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, right, so then there was
It was in the
whatever,
mid-2000s.
yeah, so whatever the Sangheili were doing in like the first few games, and then there's what was done afterwards. And if you search online, you'll, like, if, for example, if you search the Sangheili grammar or Sangheili language, I think you'll still be able to find it. There was a fan who scoured like every instance of Halo and wrote down everything that they said and tried to write up this grammar and was having a really hard time with it. And so it was really kind of disheartening when I learned what they had done, which was anytime they needed lines for the Sangheili, they would just translate it using Google Translate into Japanese and then reverse it. So
Does that work?
no.
Comedy.
Yeah. And so consequently, there is a lot of material there, and all of it is entirely unusable. It's, I mean, I suppose it's not the worst thing that could be done, because at least it had somewhat of a consistent sound, but it's not like I even bothered. We didn't bother basically with anything. I think we kept like 3 things. There was the word for human, which was domo, which now you can probably guess how they got that. Then there was a word that meant no, eya, which is actually fairly close to Japanese ie. And then there was, we did something with wart, which is like something they would say.
I just got through episode 3, and there's actually a big chunk in there where they're working with your words. That was very,
Oh, yeah.
very, very weird to see. It was like part of the plot line where they were trying to decipher the actual language. That's got to be strange for you to see it used so specifically.
Oh, yeah.
At first, like with GOT, right, that was your first big project. It's like, to the rest of us that aren't involved in this part of being fans of the series, that are just watching the TV, it's like, oh, that's really cool. They're saying it very well. They sound convincing when they're saying those lines. But for us, it's like, oh my God, there's a human being that did that. And they also cared so much about that, as much as they would have done making the costumes or something. But it's like getting more, I mean, like you continue to get hired on more and more. And like, again, I told you, when I didn't even know you worked on Halo, one of my favorite things in the world, and I was like, Jesus Christ, man, how do you not tell me about this? It's just like, they started, I don't know if it started because I don't know the history of it. You could answer it better than me, but it's like they started it really seriously with GOT, and everyone has followed suit since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the shows that I've worked on after Game of Thrones were pitched as it's Game of Thrones meets X. But yeah, like just the language creation experience comparing like Game of Thrones to Halo is really just night and day because of course you know the material I was working with that George R. R. Martin had created was completely consistent.
Yeah.
And also not just a complete copy of like English grammar, but it was its own thing. It was a very soft and a very good introduction, I will say, to like creating a language for somebody else's property. And so, you know, by the time I get to year, 10 or whatever, working on Halo, it's like, okay, I can absorb this now, and be okay with discarding 90% of canon, 99% of canon.
So you weren't given a lot to work off of.
Yeah.
We just talked about that. What about with Scroff? You know?
Why do you keep coming back to this? This is like your favorite thing.
It is.
This is the they had me create something as a test.
It was a test. That's,
That's
the sound of Scroff, actually. I just heard that. The ice
did?
twinkling. Yeah, it
It
did.
sounded a little bit like that.
You're the only one in the whole world that can speak it. We want to hear you speak it now.
Yeah.
We do. The words aren't enough. You're the only one that can do it.
Brother, I don't remember it, but it's like,
It sounds like you're speaking in parcel mouth.
here.
Seriously, it must not be.
What about what I sent you for the?
All right. I got it.
You got it.
They want to hear you talk.
Yeah, but like that was like, so they wanted the White Walkers to speak something because it's mentioned in the books. It's mentioned it's the very first thing that you read basically in the entire series. It's in the prologue of A Game of Thrones, and so they wanted to try to like do that because why not? I was already there, and so I gave them I gave them something, but then they were like, it'll be more menacing if they don't speak.
I think that was a good call, but it would have been cool.
Yeah.
What if it would have said, like, instead of the Night King, like, grinning outside of the tree, like, what if he would have said something in Scroff that was a little cheeky?
Your butt is mine.
All right, I'm fine with that. So far I got the
I'll
Giants.
pull it up faster.
I got it, sorry.
I'll pull it up faster.
It's in a GIF. I have to pause it at the right time.
It's in a GIF.
Wait, GIF, what's that? Wait, hold on, I can search your email.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just
Okay,
gonna
all
look
right.
at my email.
I'm not good at this. Oh, by the way, just a quick disclaimer. I meant to say this at the top of this. I was about to say episode.
Yeah.
At the top of this panel for everyone. This is not just a conversation and a Q&A between David and I. Feel free to think about stuff, to shout at him at some
Oh
point.
yeah. Ask stuff.
We would love for you guys to ask him questions. It's a great
I adore
opportunity.
you.
Oh,
To ask him whatever he wants. All right.
thank you. Here, hold on a sec.
Okay,
Here we
wait,
go. Here
hold
we
on.
go.
What's the translation?
Look, I
Read the
already got it.
translation first.
Here we go.
I got it too, okay?
It took us like the same amount of time. Good work. Here we go.
People jump. This is what he just said. People jump, shout big thing. Not now, not. Dark sky. Sit big land snow. Land snow. Wait, that was the Giants?
That was a giant.
Well, what was the Scroff thing?
It translated to whatever it said for the party.
Oh, okay,
Like, do you want to translate that, or is it still too early?
Party Friday, 10 p.m. Land of Always Winter. Is what he just said.
Yeah.
Great job, David.
There you go.
Fucking man,
See you tomorrow in the lands of always winter. Okay, so questions.
You were very cold outside just now, so that's very accurate.
Yeah. You first.
Okay, so two-part question related, since you just did that demonstration.
Cool.
It
Take it back.
sounds a little bit vaguely like Sardaukar.
Yeah.
And my question was arguably about Dune, so maybe we could, is there any connection there, or is it just kind of, this is untrained ear sounding something that just in
Well, what do you mean by Sardaukar? Because there were two things,
Gotta
and
roll.
there was one thing that people.
The depth to it, or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, there was a chant, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That was what I did. Then there was another part where they were speaking where it wasn't something I did. It was
Oh.
actually just English,
Right.
and it was that was the theory I think they thought it was Harkonnen, which doesn't make any sense for the scene. But I think that the battle language would have made sense.
Right.
But yeah, they were just speaking English, and it was modified by the sound department. But yeah, the Soudar card, that one was really different. Hold on a sec. This stuff is all online, by the way. Right, because I put it up there.
You got this question before.
Yeah, like here, let's see.
Just casually worked on Dune last year.
That was a good one. Casually working on Dune 2 right now. Let's see.
So, what can you tell us about Dune 2?
Have you already read Dune before?
Yeah, I read it in high school
You're.
because my stepdad was big into it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Let's see if I can still remember how this goes. Yeah, that was it. That was it. That was a.
Yeah, we got a class who does that.
So I wouldn't say it's very similar. Well, one thing about that with the who's it? What are these?
Dune.
Oh no! The
Sorry.
White Walkers. The White Walkers.
Yeah. White
All
Walker.
the sounds are voiceless, even the vowels, because I was like, they probably, we can pretend that they can get enough air out of their lungs to actually produce sounds, but probably not enough to maintain voicing
Right.
and to vibrate their vocal folds. In truth, given their unique physiology, very few of them would be able to speak. The Night King could, but a lot of them have too many holes in them to be able to actually speak.
Lady Stoneheart.
God, don't talk to me about Lady
Why not?
Stone. Oh my God.
What do you think about Lady Stoneheart?
Oh, you want to know what I think about Lady Stoneheart? First of all, I think that there were a lot of things that were cut out of the books that I wish that would have been in there. Lady Stoneheart is not one of them. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan. I am totally there with them for this. They're looking at that and they're like,
What do you think about Fagon? Same energy?
I'll wait and see how George R. R. Martin finishes it to see, but that was like my least favorite part of A Dance of Dragons. I was like, what is this? What is this? Who is this? And why am I being there? That was nice. The scene between him and Tyrion where they play Cyvasse, that was good. So that
It was
I
all
mean,
for that.
yeah, and it's
All
like,
for
yeah,
that,
like if you
exactly
get
right.
one good little scene like that, it's all right. But it was like the rest of the time. I mean, it wasn't as bad as Dorne. Hate Dorne with a
Maybe
passion.
historically.
But no, Fagon wasn't my favorite. But if it gets pulled off right, I'm willing to entertain it at this
A
point.
horse neighing on the crest of a dune in the distance, though. I know you like dunes. Think about it. It's not as bad as you think, man. That's the thing about Dorne. People think about Dorne, and a lot of people, I know this is not the topic of the panel, but a lot of folks think about the depiction and then it sort of rewrites their feelings on it, but just read it. Just read it. Read it. Just read it.
Yes!
I was going to talk about Kingsguard, sex scene. I'm just going to leave it there.
Can you tell
Just
me
read
about a list of things that they don't do in Dorne?
Oh, I can tell you about some stuff they don't do in Dorne. They treat people right in Dorne, that's all I know, and they make really good wine, and that's pretty much all you need to know about Dorne.
We definitely don't make snow angels.
Right?
Sand angels.
You can still snowboard down the sand, it's just sandboarding. It's still fun and exciting.
Sandboarding.
Yeah, it's weather that you would like, David.
Did you still have your question?
Bam!
Did you write regional accents for High Valyrian, like for the different cities? Did you write in different ways?
So those wouldn't actually be accents. They would just be entirely different languages.
Dialect.
Not dialects. They would be different languages. Now, Marine and Astapor, those were dialects,
Okay.
meaning that they were exactly the same language, just pronounced differently, with maybe minor lexical variation in the same way that you might expect with, like, I don't know, Scottish English compared to, like, London English, as
Welsh
opposed to
English.
Scotch Gaelic, which
Right.
is different language, right?
Definitely.
But no, like Mir and Lice and Pentos, and they should all have different languages.
Is it just because they're distance or the
Distance and
separation of
time.
cultures?
Distance and time and separation of cultures, all of those things. But yeah, I mean, because High Valyrian is essentially a dead language at the point that
Like
the show
Latin.
is airing. Exactly
Yeah.
like Latin, yeah. And so really, there should have been a lot more language in the show. But it's like, I'm always glad that they did as much as they did. Everybody, like all of these productions, when it comes to language, there's, stuff that they're going to do and the stuff where they say, nah, that's going too far. And so it's like, my role is just to push it as far as I can get it and then know when to back off. We were able to do some really cool stuff for Game of Thrones, but not as much as I wanted to do. We're going to get to do a little bit more for House of the Dragon, but
Yes!
also not as much as I wanted to do.
The last time I talked to you about that, we had just gotten the official word that Hot D was becoming a thing.
Mhm.
Has anything changed between now and then? Have you gone back and done any revisional stuff, or are they sending extra work your way that you can talk about without disclosing anything that you can't disclose?
Yeah, I literally just updated a line yesterday.
That's what's up.
It always happens when I'm traveling, by the way. It's like,
Do they Microsoft Teams you?
oh man, on the new Dune, we got a new email that like you could only access through Outlook, which I've never used. I was able to ditch that, so I was able to get it on my phone, which is great. The email that they gave me for House of the Dragon, though, they've disabled POP, so like you have to check it on a browser.
People use IMAP these days anyway, man.
I-
Act 3?
Well, none of it. You can't do any of it. They've
Interesting.
disabled all of it. And so honestly, it's their fault that I missed an important email from them for like 2.5 weeks.
Jesus Christ. Like, who's the other guy? Where do they go after David doesn't answer his email for
Where's the
2.5
text
weeks?
chain?
Yeah, well, actually, that was the thing. Then because they set up this whole separate email account so that there would be, fewer leaks and all that, and they could keep it contained. But then it's like when they couldn't get a hold of me, then eventually they just emailed me like one of my other Gmail addresses. And then like people on production kind of forgot about it, and so they just started emailing both my HBO email and that email at the same time. And so it's like, all right.
Cybersecurity, yay!
Yeah, but I still don't have my POP. Ah.
Corn Pops joke.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Next question?
Oh, wait. Yes.
Yeah, so musicians will often talk about like a melody or a motif that like sticks around for decades before they finally find like the song to put it in.
Mhm.
Have you ever had a job where you had like some interesting, I don't know what the technical like term for it would be, some like language thing, you're like, this would be great, but I need to find the right job to put it in? Have you had anything like that in any of your jobs, creating languages?
Oh my God, yes. And I'm looking at Jessie over here, by the way. Jessie Sam, she's my conlanging partner, so we work on everything together now. We're doing Dune 2 together, stuff
Guys
that
have
you
a
would have
podcast.
seen, or yeah, we do. We have
Langtime Studio?
Yeah, we have Langtime Studio, which is a streaming thing where we create a language live, but also Motherland Fort Salem. I don't know if anybody watches that.
Yes!
There we go. Nice, right on, right on.
About that in a little bit.
Yeah, third.
Best on-screen kiss.
Oh, man, yeah. Third season, like we're all wrapped on that, so now that'll be the show. Unfortunately, I wish it could have gone longer, but we're all wrapped on the third season. And then anything else we can talk about? Shadow and Bone. Yeah, that's coming back. You know Lee? Really?
Lee who?
Lee Bardugo, the author of the books.
No.
Man, you are just not. How many people here like know about the Brotherhood Without Banners, the fan group? Yeah, like.
You got me drunk.
Yeah, see, like now you know them. Now you know them. I think there would be more crossover.
Well,
but-
WorldCon was a smaller one this year.
Yeah, but like Lee was a part of the Brotherhood Without
cool.
Banners before she wrote Shadow and Bone. Anyway,
Right on.
what was the question? Oh, right, things that came back. Can you think of some? Like, no, because, yeah, 100%. That's a super good question, and I wish that I had come prepared to answer it.
Like Battle Harmony that we're now doing.
Oh, it's always fun to bring back things that I like. Like, I did, no. Oh, well, I did actually get to do sign language for Dune. Yeah. That was fun to be able to finally get to do that.
That was really well done, I thought, in that show.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
cut out one of my sign languages.
What was
they
the
only
one?
showed one of them. In the ornithopter, the deaf actor, he was going to use the sign language that I created.
Ah,
Then they just had him speak. I was like,
That was
Why?
so effective. And I
maybe
feel
they'll
like
use it in part 2.
no. I mean, unofficially, I can't say what's going on.
my dog's hair is on this table. Sorry, everybody. Now.
Cool.
I was just gonna say that really like made the moment in those like made that movie connect to people that not a lot of things do. Like that level of polish and that like weird get under your skin subtlety, that just things like the power of his voice and the sign language that he and Jessica did, like and also like just knowing that it exists in that world and things are that freaking intense, like that.
Yes.
Those little things like really made it stick out and become as successful as it was. I thought. Plus,
Yeah.
like the good CGI and the good sound design. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
so cool to do that.
That was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. And the thing that I was really excited about, because I remember seeing Blade Runner 2049.
Yes!
And loved it. And I actually remember thinking afterwards, it's like, I wish this weren't a sequel to Blade Runner. I wish it was just its own thing, just like, it's just, that like, he could have just done whatever he wanted, like created a new property, new plot and everything. The visuals were so amazing though. And I was like, once I heard that he was the one doing Dune, I was like, oh, this is going to look good. And it did.
So for Dune, you didn't think it was like wrong to revisit it because it had been so long since like the Lynch thing or the.
Oh no! I mean, look, if you haven't seen Alexander Hodorowski's Dune, which is a documentary about him trying to make it, you got to see it.
Right.
It's one of the best documentaries you've ever seen.
Yes.
And yeah, like, I wish we could see that version.
Yeah, no kidding.
That had music by Pink Floyd and Magma.
Yeah, right.
But no. Like, we don't owe anything to David Lynch's Dune. Look, if anything, we got a third season of Twin Peaks. What do we
Right.
have to
Yeah.
complain about? What's
Right.
he got to complain about?
That Dune
Really?
gave us Twin Peaks, really.
Oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. I think it was the time to see it done right, to see it done well, and I think it was, and I think it is continuing to be done well. So
Right.
I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
So you just worked on Hot D yesterday, you said.
Yeah.
So you've said this before, but not in front of these people.
Yeah.
You said that the writing on it looked like some of the best writing you've seen. You said the best Game
Yeah.
of Thrones writing that you've seen.
Oh,
Please
certainly.
elaborate.
And also, I think the best writing that I've had to translate, I think that often what happens, and this could be a byproduct of who the characters are, but also like just often the dialogue that I'm asked to translate is a bit, I don't even know what the best word for it is, but it's almost like they're like going into an accent in their head or like changing the words, and I'm like, this is going to be translated in a different language, right? Like, so like it's not the most exciting English. It's not what they would write if this character were speaking English,
Yes.
is the thing.
Right.
And that happens a lot, like in a lot of the shows I've worked on. And this is like the first time where I was like reading through the dialogue, I'm like, fuck, dude, this is good. I was like, God, all right, I have to like pay attention and shit and do a good translation so that it actually feels as good as this does in English. So I was I'm really excited about that. I haven't seen all of every script because thanks to the leak in season 7, they're not doing that anymore for any of this stuff. Yeah, makes sense, but it sucks for me. Anyway,
I do cybersecurity, so I know.
yeah.
It's like they give
I'm the
you.
one you hate.
What's the thing that they're doing now to give you to sort of like throw the scent off? Like they give you like chinks of
Oh,
words, like small
yeah.
pieces of words.
Yeah, it depends how serious they are, but like I'll talk about that a little bit on Saturday, what they did on the last season of Game of Thrones 2. Because of course that was right after the season 7 leak, so they were really concerned about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, often they'll like just give me lines, and then if I need context, I have to email them back and things like that. I hate the one where it's like I can only look at the script online. Marvel movies have always been that way. And it's like, you can't even, like I could take a photograph of my screen, Or what I end up having to do is, I pull it up in a browser and then retype everything by hand. And it's just like, eh.
You just write it on a piece of paper too.
It's been so long.
Can't read my own handwriting.
Have you tried to like write for a long time by hand?
Yeah, your hand does start hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in
I
college
do it
anymore.
For like sometimes, and then I stop for like 6 months, and it just sits there. And sometimes I start writing.
Yeah.
Also, more questions, Yash. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm asking about
I've lost track of who wait, who first? Who was first though? She was? Go ahead.
That's real easy. I
Okay.
haven't followed a lot of the House of the Dragon stuff. Are there
Yeah.
languages other than Valyrian that will be in the House of the Dragon?
No.
Ooh.
Good question. Great.
What about dragon speak?
Roar.
It's
on,
just
man.
roar.
It's all done in CGI.
I want you to voice the dragon.
Well done, dragon.
Do you want to do the other question that come to mind? Yeah.
Circling back, you said that you were doing, you're very excited about doing sign language, including, what was it, Zoom?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you consult with people that are fluent in like ASL or British Sign Language when you were trying to do that yourself?
I mean,
Or is it inspired by like,
okay, so first, I've studied American Sign Language, and I also did a lot of research into it when I was a graduate student, and I was the TA for this class called Sign Language and Deaf Culture. It was created by David Perlmutter, who himself was one of the first ones to study the phonology of sign language. And not only that, was one of the first to suggest that, we should be doing cross-linguistic research on sign languages and not just American Sign Language. So I got a lot of background. And I also, like way back when, I created an international phonetic alphabet for sign languages for the express purpose of creating a new one. Because at that time, it was 2006, and it was still too difficult to just take videos, but it was also really difficult to write down a sign language. Like for American Sign Language, the convention is simply to write in all caps, and then with some extra machinery. So, for example, like if what's a verb that does this? Like, for example, show. Like if it would be like I show you, or something like that. What you'd write is show in all caps, and then you'd write 1:2 as first person to second person, something like that. So I created kind of a little test sign language as a proof of concept once I did that, but I always wanted to do one like for real, especially because that one wasn't supposed to be a naturalistic sign language. It was kind of a bit of a project one. Anyway, so honestly, I'd just been waiting to do it. But yeah. So I don't know. I drew on my own experience there, but I had experience. Yeah. There. Down here. Wait.
I had a question.
Okay.
Sorry, it's me to drag it from somebody else.
Don't worry. We'll come
Look
back.
my way.
We'll come back. We'll come back.
So when I think about Daenerys learning Dothraki in season 1 and that she speaks it a little bit incorrectly,
Mhm.
does that mean that you had to teach that character, Amelia Clark, how to speak incorrectly, the language that you made, and then learn correctly?
Well, not teach. It was just the way I recorded it. So, like, I put the ungrammatical pieces in there myself, and then I record all the lines, all of them exactly as they're supposed to be said, including when they're supposed to be said incorrectly. So that's like Tyrion stuff too.
So there was a time where she, like, let's say, for example, she knew she had to say, I'm going to the beach, but she had to say it incorrectly
Yeah.
to match what you were saying for her to, like, show progress throughout the series. So-
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. That was fun. I wish I got to do more stuff like that. Game of Thrones, I got to do that. Defiance, I got to do a little bit of that. It's hard to think of other ones where somebody was speaking
100?
incorrectly.
What about The Witcher, is that one?
No. Anytime that's used, it's used fluently.
We had one
But-
on Motherland.
Yeah, we did have one on Motherland, and we've got something coming up, of course. That's right. A Witcher spinoff where something like that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Nice.
Okay.
I was just curious about your work on the Xhosa language.
Yep.
You see a lot of it in Dune, but
Yeah.
you also clearly put some written aspects, because I saw you
Yeah.
litany of narrative, but that really like sparked my interest. Because there's little bits of it in the book, but obviously you have to expand on that. So it's
Well, I will say this, yeah, like, if you compare what's coming in the second movie to what is in the first movie, it'll look like I didn't work on the first movie at all. Let's just say that. So, there's stuff coming. Whew. Yeah.
I didn't have radio access, so I'm sorry if this is like a question you answer all the time.
I worked on Game of Thrones, HBO.
With stuff like Scroff, that's coming from a very different like physicality, or
Mhm.
like any other languages that the two of you have worked on, how do you think about like prosody in those languages? Because they clearly like have it, but it's just coming from like Scroff is a good example because like the psychology is also potentially very alien to us.
Right.
Like how are you thinking about like because the two of you do have this great wealth of knowledge, I'm curious how you two approach prosody and if that's a thing that you think about.
Prosody is something that is part of the recording process. So it's like, it's something that we can write down, but when it comes to the actors, it's just a matter of listening to exactly how we do it.
What is prosody?
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's like
Prosody, boy.
it's the intonational phrasing of a language. So like a language that has stress will have stress in a particular way. So that's why subject is a verb and subject is a noun. But when it comes to an entire sentence and then also an entire string of sentences, the way that your intonation goes is something that is language specific. And so when you're creating a language, it's something that you need to design. And it's like, I'm trying to think, I was trying to think of a really whiz-bang example in English, but it's like, it goes beyond just a question and stuff. Like,
That's good enough.
Yeah, there you go. So like, it's stuff like that. So yeah, it's something that's designed when it comes to the recording process. Like, I just have to record it on an MP3 and trust that the actors are going to do it.
Yep.
90% of the time, they do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they do a stellar job, and then every so often they do an absolutely terrible job. But it's like it's the best that you can do at this stage.
Can you give an example of a terrible time?
What do you do if it's terrible? Do you give them advice or do you just let it go?
It depends. Sometimes they're not willing. Honestly, like the best and worst experience I had occurred in the same season of the same show. That was the third season of Defiance, where and they were speaking the same language, which was brand new, and they were the only two people to really do it. Well, actually, there was a third person. Oh my God, Jamie Murray spoke the new language like once, and I was shocked. She just like killed it. I was like, whoa. Where did this come from? I mean, she was good with Cassidy, but this one was tough. I don't know, man. But like, the actress who was new, like, she learned everything. She learned it twice. She wanted to go over it with me over the phone. She was texting me stuff. She was asking me to translate stuff that was in English for her, saying if she just did it in the language on the day of recording, they would just go with it. Yeah. She went so far above and beyond, more than anybody else that I've ever worked with on any show, that it was really extraordinary. And then the other person he kind of...
Someone lost their phone, I don't know.
Oh, really?
They lost their phone.
Sounds like a good time.
We have it right here.
Right on. Get a fanny pack.
Well, they're not going to be able to hear it unless they come in here, huh?
Guess they're gonna have to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, front desk is probably the best thing. Well, anyway, yeah, I don't want to say too much about it. I mean, I would love to say that they tried their best, but it was disheartening to learn that they didn't try at all and were making fun of people for trying. Yeah. All right, over there.
Yeah, back in Fort Salem, it's a show no one else watches, but I really like it. They're in the classroom learning a language.
Yeah.
And it's hinted that mother tongue has some kind of understanding that like people who don't speak it can kind of understand. I was confused by that. Can you explain that, or is it going to be revealed later?
That actually is something that's coming, but I could only explain it to you in world. I can't explain it to you in the real world. 'Cause it doesn't make sense in the real world.
What
But
do you-
no,
what do
don't
you
worry.
mean?
Stuff's coming.
Oh, I see. Yeah, mystery. So there's two things I want to talk about. One is related to Song of Ice and Fire, and one's just related to languages overall. Which question would you rather me ask you, Dean? Song of
Both at
Ice
the
and
same
Fire?
time?
I can't do both.
You can't?
No, I can't do both. I can only speak one language, and it's pretty basic, straightforward.
All right.
Not like you.
Let's start with Song of Ice and Fire.
Okay. Now that it's been a while, can you tell us about the failed prequel series Blood Moon and what you worked on with that? I think we would all like to know.
Yeah.
No idea.
I could have sworn, though, that was one of the things I said not to ask me about.
Wait, did you tell me to ask you about it?
No. Okay, well,
I think that's what happened.
I'll just say this. On Saturday, I
Too
will
much pizza.
on Saturday I will go into detail about, and you'll actually get to see some of the stuff I did. But I used one language for Game of Thrones that got cut, which was for the Children of the Forest, which was season 6, I think. Yeah, they had their own language. Like, I recorded all the lines. But apparently, it was too hard. So they just had them speak English.
Like everything else. Are you able to like give a very tiny example of what it would sound like to be a
I'll give you an example on Saturday. Here, I can't just call it to mind. I am.
Squealing
Yeah.
and clicks.
By the way, there's a $10 cover for the Saturday.
Great marketing.
Yeah. Either that, or you bring your smile.
Was the writing good on that? Was the writing good on that, on Blood Moon? Probably not.
Like,
I think it made.
It was just fine. It was
Yeah.
whatever. So like there was that, and then I created a new language for the Andals. Yeah, so you'll get to hear some of that. I've never shared that.
Well, Saturday,
But I figure
right?
it's been a while. Yeah, Saturday at 6. So you don't get dinner. Eat dinner before.
Just bring it to the panel.
Bring it.
We just did.
Look, get some of this, put it in your fridge, bring it then.
The simulation is 100% real because someone handed this to us right before we walked in, and right on it says all roads lead to pizza. I was like, Jesus Christ. I'm just going with it.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's like 7
Please
and
come get it,
a
yeah.
quarter pieces left.
Everybody wants some. I
But
don't
they're
think
cut
that's it.
into squares.
Does anybody had Emo's Pizzas? Q&A for the crowd. Everyone like Emo's here? Anyone? No one? Okay, it's a Missouri thing. We just talked about it outside. It's cut in a grid-like pattern like this.
Nobody.
You're right, Jesse has, yeah, no, of course. The thing that's also serendipitously weird about this is that this pizza is cut pretty much just like that pizza is, and it's a signature move. So this whole thing is weird.
Oh, don't worry, I texted David as soon as I saw
Right.
the pizza to see if it was as good.
That's an Ohio thing.
Literally.
All Ohio cuts like that.
Uncanny.
Yeah.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, right on, cool.
What?
Ohio pizza is like this.
Really?
Yeah.
Like even if you get it from like Domino's?
It's especially in Domino's.
No way.
Like all local pizza will cut like that.
What about the thick, like normal crust, like
Oh, then it's
the
triangle.
triangle? Okay, but like the thin, crackery ones in a grid. That's really cool. Right on.
The Midwest is like that, man.
Back to languages.
Yeah. What was your non-Song of Ice and Fire question?
I'm just like,
Love those slices. 2 or 3 more, that's fine.
I feel. I've always wanted to ask you this question, and I don't know if you are going to think that I'm weird by asking you this.
Oh boy.
I feel like I've tried to ask you before, but like we were like recording a podcast and we were talking about GOT, so it just like didn't really land the way I
What
wanted
podcast was that? Can of Bones?
to. Yeah, that's the
There
one.
we go.
That's the one, baby. That's the one, baby. How many languages do you speak, including the ASL stuff? Like that's included, right? Speak?
Yeah.
A lot, way more than me. Like I said, I can do English.
Yeah, but like, there's different levels of being able to speak a language. So I grew up with English and Spanish, but then in a classroom, I've studied French, German, Arabic, Russian, American Sign Language, and Middle Egyptian hieroglyphs. Then in a book, I've studied Akkadian, Japanese, Hindi, Modern Greek, Attic Greek, and Xhosa. Now, aside from that, I know, like, oh no, I'm Finnish. And outside from that,
Are you finished? No,
by the way, I have a book called Complete Finnish.
Oh, nice.
Get it? Get it? Complete
That's not
Finnish.
true.
No, it is true.
Really?
100% it is true.
Did you sell that book at this con? Did you bring it to sell? Just 12 copies of. Never mind.
Oh man, but it's part of the Complete series, so it's an incidental fun. But I know, so like languages I know really well because I have resources on them and have done a lot of stuff with them are Hawaiian, Turkish, Swahili, and this variant of Inuktitut up north. There are a couple. One is called Siglitun, one is called Marmute, and then there's a third one. But they're all like spoken in the same area of northern Canada.
Okay.
So those I know a lot about.
So that's my point. You've got a really big brain. Like, there's a reason why they keep asking you to do this. And by they, I mean people who make shiny stuff on TVs and movie screens.
Yeah.
And that's a really unique way to be, like, ported in through your art form. You have a lot of exposure to this particular way to express being a human being and, like, a particular way to understand being a human being. I often see language as a way to interface with your environment, a way to communicate with other human beings. And when you think about where we came from, this communication has got to be a big reason why we've made it to be civilized enough to sit in rooms like this together and not pull each other's faces off. And so my question to you is, well, let's clap for not pulling each other's faces off. Yeah. Glad that we have language. So with your understanding of all of these different windows, for example, I was just on Chloe's podcast a week and a half ago, and we were talking about the differences between...
I wasn't.
Well, you didn't get invited.
Let's move away here.
Chloe. Oh, good. Right on.
All right,
There
thank
you
you.
go. Just made a connection right
about
now.
time.
All right. Well, you know the differences between how the Summer Islanders treat people and how Sam is used to people treating people?
Yeah.
It's not just because of they're cooler. Like, there's a reason why they're cooler.
Right.
And their culture and their language is where that was born into. Like, that developed with it. They're the people that became those people while talking to each other like that. And so you have a window into all these different kinds of people from around the world that treat each other in different ways. And I've always thought it was interesting that some languages have more simple ways to describe things. And languages that, like, for example, folks say that English is very difficult to learn compared to other languages.
It depends what your first language is, but yeah.
So, like, if you speak a typical romantic language, you don't have a lot of English television exposure from a really young age. You don't have that plasticity there to hear that language funnel into your brain. You're not, like I said, you're not exposed to it a lot. Maybe you try to learn it when you're 20 years old. Would you say that it's pretty difficult for a lot of folks?
It's generally more difficult for adults to learn a language than children. Part of that is because we've got a lot of other things to do.
Right.
I mean, there's a longer answer here.
So I haven't got to my question yet. But so
Then let's do it.
My question is, if we speak different qualities of languages, like different intricacies of languages, with some being more intricate and some being more simple than others, do you think that the languages that we speak affect how we see the world and how we treat each other and how we think about stuff and maybe how clever we can be about things, how deep we can understand things?
I'm gonna hate to disappoint you, but no.
Explain to me why. That's all I think about.
Okay, so first of all, the languages that we speak are a reflection of our culture, not the other way around. So it's not like our culture is a reflection of our language. Language reflects culture. So
What does that mean exactly?
It means that the reason that you talk about things a certain way or like you have certain expressions is because that's your culture, right? And so it's not as if the language is constraining or shaping the culture, it's the culture shaping and constraining the language and the way that you say things and the things you talk about. So like, and then these things show up in random ways. And really a lot of it, what it does is it just tells you kind of in language the history of those people. So for example, we have an expression in English, cut to the chase, and it comes from the golden age of Hollywood, which was, in other words, it was the editor saying, all right, things are getting a little long, the audience is going to get bored, let's get rid of all this talking and cut to the chase scene, because that's what they came here to see,
that's cool.
right? And really what that tells you, the fact that that expression caught on and was so popular. First, it was useful. It has to be useful, right?
Right.
But second is that that was just something that captured people's imaginations at the time, so that it clicked for so many people. They liked it. They used it a whole bunch. And pretty soon it just kind of spread and spread and spread until it got to a point where now we don't even recognize what the origin of that is anymore. But what that tells you, yeah, I mean, what that tells you is that, like, at that point in time in our history for, like, English speakers, like, you know, Hollywood was a big deal. And so things like that made it out into the world, you know. And it's kind of the same thing with all languages. You can see little snapshots of history and what things are like. Like, it's a weird thing reading 19th century Russian literature, like something like War and Peace, because you really got to almost be fluent in French, because they've just dropped so much French in there, just verbatim without explaining it. And it's like, all that tells you is just that the people they expected to be reading their books at that time would have just been fluent enough in French that they would have got it, you know? And that just tells you, like, a little something about I mean, not the general population, it would be the general book reading population at that time in 19th century Russia, you know?
Did they need the French to express what they were trying to express in that
No.
Russian? So it was just. So why did they use it then?
Because they admired them. Like,
It was like a flavor that, like, putting in a recipe, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way that now, and this is really interesting if you listen to music from the non-English speaking part of the world. There's a lot of English in there. Like, if you listen to, like, K-pop and stuff,
Yeah.
there's a lot of English
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there. And it's almost like it's not like they're singing in English because, like, oh, this is the only way that people are going to listen to our music, which, I mean, I think was the case for, like, Northern Europeans for metal. It was just like, that's not what it's there for. It's just thrown in for flavor, like, because it's cool, right? Which is really interesting. And that was the same case with French in 19th century Russia. And it's like, you wonder why, and it's like, you can actually see this in War and Peace, right? Because it's this very long book where essentially it's about the Napoleonic Wars, but they're being invaded by Napoleon right then. But they admire him so much. Not like, you know, like when they were going to welcome him with open arms and say, please take over our country. In fact, you know, once they actually take over Moscow and you see what happens, it's pretty funny. I mean, in kind of a sad way, but it's like, they're just like, you know, we took you over, and then it's like, great, we're leaving. And then it's like, we took you over! And then nobody responds. And then they start, like, looting everything for food. Then they run out, and then it's winter. And it's like, well, I guess we just need to go home. And they do. And the Russian army just kicks their butt all the way back to France. Yeah, but it's like the whole time, though, everybody, like, in these high, you know, society Russian places are talking about how much they just admire Napoleon, you know, what an honest and true soul he is. But, like, it's this weird dichotomy. And so it's like, I don't know, it's just a weird thing about Russian society at that time, and it's reflected in language, you know what I mean?
So in a programming language, like something that has more intricacy, oftentimes has more ability to express deeper abilities to make more intricate detail with the thing that you're trying to express. Like, more simple code is generally limited to making things that are more simple. Does that not apply to the language as well, though? Like, if something has less ability, like less slang, less, what was the thing that you said, Cinia?
Prosody.
That's it?
Like prosody? Prosody.
The
property of everything.
The emphasis.
Emphasis. On the wrong syllable.
Exactly. All these different, when there's so much intricacy and so much, hits different, or cap. You know, I know obviously other languages have strange slang words that pop up all the time, and like I said, I'm only speaking from the experience of the one thing that I have, but I oftentimes hear translations of things that we're trying to say in English sound more simple, and I'm sure that there's the same thing coming from the other way around, but if this is a phenomenon that does exist, would it not be sort of similar in programming language, where if you have a more intricate way to say, like, we have so many ways to say so many weird shit. Mm-hmm. And it means like this at the same time, but in a different context it means this, and it's very confusing, but like it makes up our our operating system, in which we all communicate and exist within.
It's like Japan and the word cute.
What is it? What is the word cute in Japan?
Kawaii?
There's like
Kawaii.
6 different ones.
But,
Oh, kawaii, that one.
but
Kawaii, I've heard that song.
let me think about how.
You're
let me
the guy
see.
to ask, man.
Let me see if I can anticipate where you're going here. So like, I was never a big coder, so it's like, you know, the one thing that I worked with the most was like HTML and CMS,
So you had a
CSS and a
MySpace
little
page, is what you're
PHP.
saying.
No, I had my own website.
Oh, yeah.
I had to learn how to make everything by hand by just copying. But it's like way back in the old days, like you could tell somebody's tradition if, like, for example, you were making a paragraph and you do an open paragraph tag and
Yeah.
a closed one
Yeah.
versus if you did an open one and nothing. Right? That was
Chaos.
that was a tradition. Like that was a style at the time. Like it was the same thing actually in linguistics, bizarrely enough, where it's like simpler rules were considered better because they used less typewriter
Yeah.
ink.
Right?
Yeah, but like the difference between programming languages and human languages is that there is a hard pass filter for programming, which is if you press the button and it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Right.
The human brain is much more forgiving. We're willing to make inferences and leaps of logic to try to rescue what's said to us. And so you can get by with less.
And maybe even it's more beautiful sometimes.
And sometimes it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, there are a couple of universal consistencies, which is often if you can say something in fewer words, but you use more words on purpose, it usually means something. So, like, for example, like one way that this shows up is if you can answer a question with yes, but you say, like, I believe that that is possibly indeed the case. Then it's like, right, then it's like,
You just said, yes, you're rude.
it's like either that or it's like maybe you're distancing yourself from it. You're not necessarily as willing to acknowledge that it's true, you know?
Each of those words is like a way to suggest that there's some kind of discord rather than being direct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also the opposite is true. In other words, like if you are expecting an answer that is a little bit longer and you give one that's shorter, it's another indication that perhaps you're being rude, perhaps on purpose, perhaps you're not happy with that person, or perhaps there's something that you don't want to reveal. So it's like, you know, like, or if you're underinformative. So it's like, you know, oh, what'd you have for lunch? Food. Right?
That's basically fighting words.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's not like you just lied or anything. Probably did have food for lunch, but I mean, it's just, it's less informative than the person is expecting. And when you violate expectations, it's usually done for a reason.
So in that case, it's not truthful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but then, you know, it depends on the context. I mean, like, if you look at poetry, they violate expectations all the time, but it's
Right.
done for beauty. There was an example I used in a talk where there's a line in Romeo and Juliet. It says like, I think it's like, but soft, what light doth yonder window break? 'Tis the east and Juliet is the sun.
Yeah.
And the the actual content there is, what's that? It's Juliet. But like, you know, it's supposed to be poetry. Like it's supposed to be giving you something extra, you know, just for the beauty of it, the sound of it, and also to give you a picture of Romeo's mind here.
Marvin
He's,
Gaye,
you know-
what's going on?
There you go.
Also very similar.
Yeah.
Is he talking to his father? Is he talking to his brother?
Mm.
Or does it mean something more?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I remember when I learned about how he died. Goodness.
Yeah, well, his father in that case, yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
Guys, we have 1 minute left. I don't know if there's a panel after this.
Way to set it up.
Yeah, thank you. We have 1 minute left, according to my watch. Is there a panel after this?
No, I think this is probably.
So-
Yell it.
Oh, Skelly Night, right, after this.
It's what?
Skelly Night.
Skelly night.
What's that? What's that?
Look at the bony shirts.
First of the first man.
All right, what's it do? What's it do?
So
Yeah, keep going.
Thursday night, it's a tradition, it's an unofficial con tradition over at the cabins, you'll know which one, just walk over there. Everyone parties outside, everyone wears skeleton themed things. You may see a giant skeleton in the lobby.
I've seen it
That's
already.
a part of it.
All right.
It's fun,
Bonfires.
just go there, just go, you'll have fun.
And the
Any-
skeleton, part of it.
Any final questions for David while we have him in this Q&A?
Yeah, yeah.
I was wondering, did you ever have a conversation with whoever you work with on Game of Thrones about Bravosi? Like when Arya went there, I was
All the
really
time.
curious about her process of learning it because in the book it sounded really cool, but you never actually get any words.
Nope.
So I was wondering, like, did you guys ever like sit down and think about how that would sound? Because it's like Bravos is like a bunch of slaves coming together, so like that would be a really interesting language to create.
Yeah, it would have been. And no, like I said, like
He's fired up now.
with all of these shows, there's a certain point where it's like, all right, let's do it, and then a point where they just say, nah, it's too much. Bravos was too much.
Yeah. That's
And it's like, I kept saying, because it's like, when I hadn't read the books before I applied to the show. And so when I started researching this fandom, I was like, oh, okay. Because I was creating the Dothraki language, right? I was like, oh, okay. People are kind of like lukewarm interested in Dothraki. Everybody really wants to, know about Valyrian, but of course the one they're really excited about is Bravosi.
Yeah.
And so, but like that was just like, it was one of those things where it's like, if it had been an in-person meeting, it would have given a very Hollywood answer. It's like, so what about the Bravosi language? Like, oh, Bravosi, so cool. That was an absolute non-starter there. So yeah, that's a shame. But that's all right because there's going to be like. There's going to be Song of Ice and Fire spin-offs down the line in different places. So, maybe one of these days we'll get to doing it. That's a nice thing. Like for each one of these shows, like, you start the language and however much you do with it, and then it's there. So like it can get used elsewhere. So it's like the same thing with the Children of the Forest language. All right, we didn't get to use it, but it was there. So I was able to just absolutely go with it in Blood Moon. Right? And so it's like at some point in time, there will be a chance, because like, I think it would be really cool to just see stuff that was just set in the Free Cities. I think that would be really cool. And so it's like, maybe for one show they'll be like, all right, so it's set in Bravo, so we need to have them speak English because that's where everything is set. But they're going to have like a bunch of interactions with people from Pentos, and we want that language. It's like, cool, all right, then we create that one, and then it's there, And the nice thing is that High Valyrian is already created.
Yeah.
So it's like all these languages are descended from High Valyrian. So it's not like we'd be starting from scratch. At least that's done. Yeah.
Nice.
Last question. You raise your hand?
No, it's already the camera.
Oh, my bad.
There's a camera?
Okay, now they have a chance. Wait. Was there ever consideration for a Dornish language?
No, not once. They never.
David turned that one
Put so
down.
much up in the door.
Yeah, that's
doing
true.
Dorne.
The language is loud.
They said we'll pay you a truckload of money. I said no. But no, that was never on the table. Like the only thing that was like close is like there was a guy who was Lysine once, and they're like asking like, can we do something for this? And I'm like, oh yeah, we can absolutely create a Lysine language. And they're like, no, we only need one line.
Too excited.
Yeah.
We're gonna make you stop. Guys, I feel like we could do this for 2 more hours, but luckily David's gonna be on other panels for the rest of the
Thank you.
weekend. Tomorrow at noon, we got one.
Yeah, tomorrow at noon.
Tomorrow at noon, we're doing something. If you guys get up that
Wait.
early, because it's Skelly night.
Which one is first?
Ours. The Game
GOT
of
effect
Thrones.
is
Yeah,
at
GOT
12?
effect. Yeah, with the Shave from History of Westeros.
Okay, that's first.
Hell yeah.
Okay, hold on. So you're saying that that my panel.
That's it, new.
GOT effect is GOT effect is at 1. Listen,
Hell yeah, 1.
noon.
Hour.
Listen. You got to come to this, all right? Because this is what I'm proudest of, all right? tomorrow at noon is a presentation on the writing system for High Valyrian,
Oh, right on.
which I got to do for House of the Dragon.
Hell yeah.
I was begging them to let me do this in Game of Thrones. Again, complete non-starter. They're like, we can just read it, and this, like, they didn't care. So excited about this. So, and you'll find out why tomorrow. Anyway,
Sweet.
yeah.
Guys, give it up for David one more time. I fucking love you guys.